Itch it up, my selector.
Due to some violent content, parental discretion is advised.
I know you're gonna dig this.
Ready? The fighters are in the ring and they are ready. Fight fans, are you ready? For the sold out, standing room only crowd here at Madison Square Garden and the millions watching around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, let's get ready to rumble!
Y como dice mi coro por Dios, en el no sí, el afro hace odo.
And it is Friday. Happy Friday. March the 5th. We made it all the way to Friday, to the end of the week. I don't know how it is where you guys are, but the temperature dipped like crazy today. I tried to go out for a little run, do some jump rope, my little boxing workouts, and it didn't really work out for me the way I would have liked it. But hey, I'm happy to be here. This is MaestroA, Master A, Maestro Amílcar, Mill. I am here. I'm a public school phys ed teacher out here in the Bronx, New York, with a podcast. And guess what? A YouTube show. And I hit a milestone that I'm proud of as a beginner here, doing this for about a month, maybe a little bit over a month. I got to my 100th sub yesterday. So I want to thank all of the people that came out and subbed for me. I want to do that real quick. That was awesome. I'm very happy that people came to my channel, liked what they saw. Hit that subscribe button. And guess what? If it's something that you like today, if you like to what I'm saying, if you like the engagement, because I'm going to ask people to call in, guess what? I'd like you to also hit that subscribe button, like this stream. And let's get started. Let's get right into it. Again, my name's Amílcar. All right, Amílcar, Master A. I'm here in the Bronx, New York. It's after the school day. I'm sitting down at my desk, and I am ready to talk boxing with all my boxing camaradas out there, all my, members of this boxing fraternity. And something happened this week that I felt was interesting and that I really wanted to jump into. And as the title and the picture that's on the screen kind of outlines and details, right? I want to talk about Manny, and I want to talk about this fight that is scheduled for today, okay? Well, it's been scheduled, rather. And I want to salute to I Buy Houses. Thank you for joining me live. Kenny is out there looking for the link. Kenny, I sent the link to your Twitter, but you know what? I'll send it here as well in the chat. You can jump on in. And that's good for anyone else that wants to jump in too. All right. It's right there in the chat. All right. I'm also going to allow people to call in. Obviously, the number is 718-618-4284. We are live and we're going to talk boxing. So look, Manny Pacquiao, the man, the myth, the legend, one of the greatest to ever do it, has been rumored to be interested in a fight with none other than a guy who I think is a great fighter in his own right. All right. That's Mikey Garcia. I got a lot of respect for Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia took his future into his own hands, much in the way that Teofimo Lopez did recently. He said, look, Top Rank, I don't really like what you're going to do or what you're thinking you're doing to me, and I'm going to do my own thing. Manny did that as well. Left Top Rank after many, many years with them. I don't quite understand this fight, though. I got to admit, I don't really understand the fight. I think Manny, being who he is, has a bunch of options that he can explore that I think would be better than the option of this fight. Look, we're talking about one of the best to ever do it, right? We're talking about a guy who's 42 years old right now, 42 years old, and really should be kind of writing his own check and doing really what he wants to do in the sport of boxing. I don't quite get why a 42-year-old who's pretty much done everything there is that you can do in the sport is taking on a tough challenger like Mikey. So look, he's 42, right? He's the only 8th division world champion in the history of boxing. He's won 12 major world titles. The accolades speak for themselves. I mean, he's generated over 1.2 billion in pay-per-view buys, and that figure, it was actually from 2015. So this is Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao, the man, the myth, the legend, right? He did that to Margarito. He did that to Margarito. He did that to Ricky Hitman Hadid. He laid him out. All right. He's done it all in the sport of boxing. Look at that. 71 fights. Guys, they don't really do that anymore, man. They just don't. 71 fights, 62 wins, 7 losses, 2 draws, 39 wins by KO. So why is he doing this? I just don't get it, man. And what I'm going to propose, I'm going to bring Kenny and Raw Boxing in here in a minute. What I'm going to propose is something a little bit different, right? Because I really don't know what Manny has to gain in this fight. He's done everything there is to do in boxing. I know what Mikey Garcia has to gain. But what does Manny have to gain? He can make what he's going to make against Garcia pretty much against everyone. And it's not a fight that if he wins, I think really proves anything. So I propose this for one of the best to ever do it, right? Again, 42 years old, only 8th division world champion in the history of boxing, 12 major world titles, over 1.2 billion in pay-per-view buys. This is what I'm proposing. I'm proposing that he takes on the winner of Ramirez Taylor. Why? He's never been undisputed. It's the one thing that Manny has not done. And when you think about it, these are the possible opponents for Taylor and Ramirez. You got Teofimo, Manny, and Crawford. And to me, out of these 3, it's clear that if I'm Pacquiao, that if I'm Ramirez or Taylor and I win that fight, I'm going to be going after Manny. Biggest name, biggest draw, biggest bucks, right? For the 4 title belts, undisputed. Raw Boxing, thank you for joining me, brother.
What's going on, man? Thank you for having me.
I'm going to bring in Kenny as well. All right, Kenny T, welcome to Live at 5, your home, obviously. All right, I'm going to introduce you to Ranger, Raw Boxing TV. How's it going, Kenny?
Man.
How's it going? How you doing, Ranger? How's it going, everybody? I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invite once again.
Ranger's always in HD while I'm hiding behind my avatar. But yeah, Ranger, what are your thoughts, fam?
Man, I what you just said about Pacquiao, it's nothing but facts. And I mean, look, there's always been the rumors surrounding the great stars, right? What great fighter starts their career and retires their career without controversy, without rumors surrounding them at one point or another? But the one thing nobody can deny is what you just stated. How many fighters today is on the verge of giving us this insane amount of fights? Very little, if none. I do think that offer is a lit offer. I mean, if he fights Mikey Garcia and beats him, I think that Josh Taylor Ramirez winner will make for a hell of a resume additive, if you will. Will it happen though? That's the thing. I don't know. You just don't know, because a lot of these young fighters, I don't think they want to risk what they got going on against Manny. And Manny is a legit fighter. Manny is a tough fighter that's been down, that's been out, but he's up and he's still fighting. Will Ramirez, will Josh Taylor take the risk? That's yet to be seen, though. I'm not calling them ducks or anything, but it's a risky move, especially to say that you lost against a fighter on his way out, late in his career, old already. So,
you know what they say about money, though, right, Ranger? Money talks,
and makes you walk as well.
And makes you walk, exactly. And I don't really see, again, as much as I respect Teofimo and what he's done in the sport, you know, he's got a long way to go before he can be generating the type of money that Pac-Man already does, you know? So if you're looking at him as an opponent, yes, he's coming up from 135, right? And he is undisputed, as we all know, but he's still not Manny Pacquiao. Terrence Crawford, he's got that WBO belt. I mean, if I'm either Ramirez or Taylor, I mean, it's a bigger fight to throw your titles on the line against Pacquiao than it is, at least in my opinion, than it is to move up to fight Terrence Crawford for that WBO title. And Terrence Crawford needs an opponent more than pretty much any in the sport of boxing, right? Kenny, what are your thoughts, fam?
Like you said, Manny Pacquiao is definitely one of the greatest to ever do it in boxing, and it's you know, I don't want to see him against Mikey Garcia, to be honest. I honestly think that that's a waste of the ending of his career. He only has let's say 1, 2, 3 fights left. Like you know, like I said yesterday, you know, he should go out with a bang if he's gonna go out. Like you said, either go become undisputed at 140. Or the fights that everyone is against because they don't want to see him get hurt, which is the Terrence Crawford or the Errol Spence. I just feel like those are the big money fights, and that is what would have him go out with the biggest bang possible. Fighting Mikey Garcia is just like blah, like whatever. It's a fight that I'll see. Mikey Garcia is a super talented fighter, but I think we can all guess the outcome of a fight of Manny Pacquiao versus Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia, I think, will end just on the canvas the same exact way that Keith Thurman did.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, Mikey, I don't see him bringing anything to the table as much as I like and respect Mikey Garcia. Right? We saw what happened when he jumped up to 147 pounds already to take on, obviously, Errol Spence Jr., right? We saw what happened when he got washed. I don't think he won a single round. It was a shutout on my card.
Yeah,
right?
Completely.
And then he came back, as I was reminded last night on the roundtable, against Jesse Vargas. But we've seen Jesse Vargas and kind of his limit and his ceiling and what he's able to do in the sport of boxing. So Mikey still has not shown me that he can actually hang with welterweights. In fact, Mikey already leapfrogged 140 pounds. So he's shown us what he can do as a featherweight. He's shown us what he can do as a lightweight. Anything above 135 pounds, this dude is totally untested, let's say, or has been tested.
Unproven.
Hasn't passed the test. Right? Unproven. Absolutely. So why Manny would be taking him on? A guy that already got shut out, right, by Errol Spence Jr. Do what you haven't done yet, Manny. Fight for the undisputed championship of the world. It's right there, like on a silver platter for you. It's there on a silver platter.
I think that if Manny comes back to fight a Mikey Garcia, and I've done a video about this months ago when I first started contemplating the notion of coming back to the YTBC. But I think if he comes back to fight Mikey Garcia, it would be solely just to get some rust out and to add a good name, because Mikey Garcia, whether he's tested or not at 147 pounds, it's still a good name that he carries on from what he did as a featherweight, right? So, and he's still the younger fighter, right? So to beat Mikey Garcia, get that ring rust, I think will prepare him physically, conditionally to the fights that he's going to be taking on the way out the door. I do agree with you. I see Mikey Garcia taking a punishment. However, Mikey does possess something that has shown to be the kryptonite of Pacquiao, and it hasn't shown it at 147 pounds, to be fair. But the very effective and well timed and well accurate 1-2 down the pipe. I think that's about the only thing he's got going on for him. As far as the other things, Garcia's a bit of a slow starter against such a fast starter like Pacquiao, and I think that's where Pacquiao is just gonna overwhelm him and probably hurt him really bad.
Hurt him and stop him. Think about the quick start he got up on Thurman with. You know what I mean? We're joined by David Duenas, owner, president, comandante, and everything else of Leaving in Radio.
That's a lot of titles.
Yeah, how's it going, man?
Good, man. Good. I was just I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get on. I was trying on the other link that you sent me, and it just wasn't working. But I remembered that you put the link on the chat room, so What's going on, fellas?
What's going on, Dave?
So what are your thoughts? Basically, you just to give you a little recap quickly, Dave.
Yeah.
The idea here is that, and it sounds like we're all in agreement so far, we're really not convinced about the quality of the fight between Mikey Garcia and Manny Pacquiao. Like, it's of a certain quality, but we think that there's something that could possibly be better there. I was saying essentially that he's unproven above 135 pounds, right? He got shut out by Errol Spence Jr. With all due respect, a win over Jesse Vargas is not really that impressive for an elite level fighter.
Not at all.
I mean, he did stop him. I mean, here's the thing with Errol Spence.
Yeah.
I mean, Errol Spence didn't really jump on Mikey, and there was a reason why. Mikey's pretty accurate with his punches. The one thing that Manny's always shown is that his Achilles is a right hand. He doesn't know how to protect himself from a right hand. And Mikey brings that to the table. It's a great straight right hand. He's got great timing. I think Ranger was saying that a little earlier. His timing is just like, it's always on point, you know? I think it's a far better fight than what you're kind of giving it right now, to tell you the truth. I'm actually, we talked about this on Leave the Ring. Remember when I was saying, like, okay, so where does he go from here? Mikey Garcia is actually the better choice because of the Southern California following that Mikey has. Mikey has kind of proven. He goes to Texas, anywhere. He brings a big Mexican fan base and stuff. So, and that's what Manny's looking for, the biggest money that he can generate. You know, I mean, let's be honest. Manny has, and you guys were all saying this, he's already solidified where his place is at in the boxing history. What he's trying to do is what the youngsters are doing too early, too soon in their careers, which is he's trying to pack in as much money as his bank account before he retires out. And kudos for him. And Mikey Garcia is a good name, but it's a competitive name. It's not like what Floyd Mayweather did on his farewell match in boxing, which was against, Andre Berto. Berto didn't have a chance. Mikey actually does have a chance to upset or beat, decision Manny Pacquiao.
I see Manny winning this fight, Dave, even at the age of 42. I see him being too quick. And yes, he can get touched, but he's also got a really good chin. I'm guessing
he does have a really good chin. I mean, look, Manny is probably like, I don't know, a few seconds step from who he was before. I still think he's got hand speed. He's still a valiant puncher. Does he dish out 6-punch combinations like at every 30 seconds? No. But the one thing that Mikey does have, and it eliminates that target in and out movement, is a really phenomenal jab. And Errol Spence figured that out immediately and adjusted to it. And that's what made Errol Spence very successful against Mikey Garcia. Mikey's not a worn out guy. The only thing that would concern me about Mikey Garcia is that he fluctuates. He's like the Robert De Niro of boxing. This guy is either 130 or 160. He's always up and down, So that might affect him. Where we all know Manny Pacquiao, he lives a fighter's life.
One thing I will say, of all of the fighters that Mikey Garcia does remind me of the most, it's Juan Manuel Marquez. And we all know the success that he had.
Really?
Yeah. I think especially earlier on in his career, before he kind of went all balls to the walls later on in his fights. I mean, this was a guy who fought very well behind the jab, was always patient, always looking to counter you. I'm talking about the first iteration of Marquez. There was that second.
Right, really technical, really sound. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
The second iteration of Marquez, and I hate to say this because the dude's a legend and I look up to him a lot, but let's just say he got swole out of nowhere.
Yeah.
No, let's just say memo. He got memoed in his career.
It's a fact. I mean, it's a fact. It's the same rumors that surrounded Manny. These are things that unfortunately happened in the sport of boxing, and it's not a fact. I mean, we don't know. He's never been tested. He's never been popped.
But you had Memo Heredia. Memo Heredia, God, I mean, yeah.
I'm saying fact in the sense that whether we like it or not, we do know that there's some stuff going on in boxing. You know,
yeah, especially when you have a guy that's, you know, shouldn't be in the sport, that didn't even want to prove. He didn't even want VADA. He criticized VADA every single time out. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other
there's the back act
podcast. Yeah.
There's a lot of circumstantial evidence. So look, am I going to watch this fight? Of course I'm going to watch the fight. And I'm going to be, you know, tuning in with my popcorn and everything else, just like every other fight fan. However, just from a business side, I do not know if I understand this move from Manny Pacquiao, because I think that Manny Pacquiao could pretty much fight anybody at this stage of a certain level and get paid. To me, if it's about legacy, and that's what I'm looking at if I'm a Pacquiao fan, I got to go after the belts. I got to do something I haven't done yet, and that's the undisputed champion in the division.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't think you're – I mean, look, I would love that. I would absolutely. But, bro, he hasn't – I mean, look, he only fought one time at 140, and that was against Ricky Hatton, and that was back in 2009.
Yeah.
You know, remember, he fought David Diaz at 135, jumped to 140, fought Hatton, and then jumped up to go Oscar De La Hoya. Or was it Oscar then back down? I can't remember, you know, how it was done. But – after that, he was a tweener, like between 140 and as a welterweight. He was 145 the whole time, you know, for a very long time. I'm not quite sure if he could make 140, or if the winner of Ramirez and Taylor, would they be willing to fight for a catchweight? And if it is at a catchweight, is it really for the titles though, bro?
No, I don't think, and I'm sorry to jump in. I don't think that this, if that fight was to ever happen, I'm kind of with you on that. I don't want to hear nothing about no catchweight involving this fight, man. I think Manny Pacquiao can make 140. His body structure suggests that he can. Everything. Now, how strong will it be? That's a whole nother subject.
What from what though, Ranger? I mean, think about it. I mean, when has he showed that he comes in at 139 or even 141?
I'll tell you right now, Dave. I'll tell you right now. It's all about calories in versus calories out. It's all about a good amount of fiber. It's all about maintaining your vitamin levels, maintaining your health. I've seen so many people drop to a tremendous amount of weight to go and run a 50-mile marathon, a triathlon. It's doable now.
But see, that's completely different. Running a marathon is not the same as getting punches being thrown in your face. I mean, you're asking a guy weaken himself that could possibly weaken himself and not be the same guy, and might even look even older trying to drop this weight.
It would only be 4 or 5 pounds.
Now how strong is he going to be?
Bro.
That's another. That's why I told you, how strong is he going to be? That's another subject. As far as making the weight, it's possible.
He's always
it's possible, but it's like what right now, like what Kenny, bro, 2-3 pounds is a lot for a fighter. Trust me. But if you can't make it, you can't make it.
Sorry, go ahead, Mel.
Here's the thing, and then Kenny, you go right ahead. What I was saying is that, first of all, Manny's always been small for 147. That's number one. Number two, when he fights at 147, you always hear reports about, you know, the entire training camp, he's at like 144. And that on the day of the weigh-ins, he's eating like a full solid breakfast. He's not having to dehydrate or anything. So,
Right. So, but that's still 4 pounds, though, Amílcar. You got to think about for 12 years, he hasn't had to shed.
So you're saying that it's the weight cut at the end that would affect him, because essentially right now,
I'm not saying it would affect him, but what I'm saying is that he would think, I wouldn't want to. I mean, look, boxing has always had to have its advantages, and I'm looking at the history of Manny Pacquiao. He's going to say, why would I want to drop 4 pounds to face these guys? Well, I have to drain myself, change my regimen, because 4 pounds is a lot. It's a lot for a fighter, you know, and maybe not come out the way he would want to, because those 4 pounds is now got to concentrate. You know, I mean, look, the criticism goes for fighters like David Benavidez, even like Adrian Broner, these guys that are struggling. Jojo Diaz, they struggle to lose a pound or two. And even as professional as Manny is, I mean, 12 years of you not have to do this. What happened to Oscar De La Hoya? Oscar goes, I could go back to 147 and I haven't fought for over 10 years. And what happened to him? He didn't look the same anymore. He was washed. He was done.
You know, Manny is that kid that you went to school with, high school with, who ate whatever he wanted,
right?
Skinny as fuck.
And he doesn't eat whatever he wants. Go ahead.
Exactly. But go ahead, Kenny.
I definitely feel, as a dude who's heavy into lifting weights, as a dude who goes up and down the weight all the time, which is what I do regularly, I have to tell you, 3-4 pounds is nothing.
But you're not a fighter, though, Kenny. That's what I'm saying, though.
It doesn't matter.
It does. It just does.
If it's
okay, so
out,
then you would tell these fighters that are actually struggling or have lost these weights, and then their body doesn't react to it. You're going to tell them it doesn't matter. When this has been throughout history, Roy Jones went to heavyweight, dropped that back down. He was a natural light heavyweight, and how did he look when he fought at Tony Tarver? It does matter, bro. I'm sorry.
That's because they try to rush the process. If you spread out losing your 4 pounds into a couple of months, you ain't losing no strength. If anything, you're gaining strength. You're gaining strength and conditioning. These guys try to rush the process. These are rich guys that don't want to be hitting the gym. They have their special nutritionist, their special workout person, and they try to drop all these pounds in a week. If you drop 3-4 pounds in a week, you're anemic. You're not feeling well. That's sick. That's unhealthy. But if you pace it out, you can definitely maintain your strength, especially a dude like Manny Pacquiao. 3, 4, 5 pounds, Manny Pacquiao would 100% be able to drop those pounds.
It's to be seen, though. You know what I mean? I mean, it might work, but I like I said, I just don't see a guy right now who's going to say, no, I'm going to do that. I just don't see it happening. I don't see him wanting to go at 140 or even make that struggle. So to face two fresh guys in their prime, I just don't see him doing that.
I just got a shout out.
I agree with that
in the chat before we bring on my man Drew Evo. So Cruzito G, Glenn, Sonteo Medio, Andres always here. Thank you so much. G Funky, always my man. That's G Funstradamus. Best calling the fights in the game. We got the Shoe Shine. That's Dave 408. We've got A-Rod. Philly Iris Drew, you're with us right now, so thank you for joining us. Puerto Rican Rum Chicano Prophet and everybody else. Gijon is with us as well. I want to let you guys know that we're live streaming on 2 channels right now. We're live streaming on D Styles channel and we're live streaming on my channel. So if you could click the link right under the video, if you're on D Styles channel, just click the link and subscribe to my channel. Also ask you to subscribe to Raw Boxing TV. That's my man Ranger right there to my right. And also to my man David Duenes below. That's Leave It in the Ring. So just look up LIITR. Drew Evo, thank you for joining us. What are your thoughts, bro?
Like, I've seen a lot of names that being brought up to fight Manny Pacquiao. And one thing that nobody's ever hasn't mentioned, he's fought at 154. Why not fight the Charlo at 154?
Nah.
That's a good point. That's a good point, man. Honestly, that's a good point. Why not?
Yeah, but
I know why not, though. Why not is I don't want Manny getting hurt. That's why.
But here's the thing. That Charlo's never really fought a fighter that can have that type of hand speed. A guy that can bring combinations out like Manny Pacquiao has. Let me
answer this to Drew Evo real quick. I'll tell you why, man. Who do he fought at 154? Who?
Antonio Margarito.
Exactly. Styles make fight, right? So I'll give you an example. Me as a fighter, and I think Canelo did the same. Me as a fighter, if I fight at 147, but I know that even far from my best, I can go to 154 and beat a kryptonite up there, right? I know I can beat him, but if I go against the elite of the division, I'm gonna have a harder time. But if I know I can beat him, even though I'm not gonna be at my best, I'm gonna go up there and beat him, and then I'm gonna come back to my comfort weight. Manny didn't go out there saying I'm the dominant fighter at 154. No, he went over there to do a job, beat Margarito, and what did he do after that? Immediately left the division. Immediately. Why?
Ranger, let me. Can I add to that really quick?
I think the argument is like we want to see Manny be undisputed, and it's easier for him to do it at 140, in my opinion.
Well, I was gonna say this. The difference is too, is for Drew, Drew, is that Margarito had a big, strong base. That's why Manny did it. Secondly, Charlo doesn't have that. I think what Manny's trying to go for is where the biggest money he can make. It's the money grab at this moment. If Taylor, and I think he would probably consider if Taylor won, I think that might intrigue him more than Ramirez. You know what I mean? Intriguing that match. I don't think he cares about being undisputed or anything like that anymore. I think what he cares about, like I said, it's a big money grab. That's why the Conor McGregor's names are brought up. That's why the Brian Garcia, and that's also why like you're hearing about Mikey Garcia. But I like that idea, though, Drew. I do like that idea.
If Manny was 10 years younger, I would agree with you. I would love to see him up there. But reality, we're talking about reality right now. And the reality is that, nobody in their right mind would think that older Manny Pacquiao, inactive Manny Pacquiao, will move up to 154 to take on the literal dominant king of that division and all of a sudden blow him out the water. That's just not realistic.
I agree with that. And if we're gonna throw the Charlos in the mix, then let's just get wild, crazy, outrageous, and let's just throw Canelo in the mix. Why doesn't they make a catchweight? Here you go. I don't think. I'm just throwing like random scenarios out there because I think the Charlo fight is just exaggerated. That's a little bogus.
Manny, do me a favor, right? It says one of the best to ever do it right there on the screen, right?
Yeah.
Could you just let everybody know the age that is up there?
Thank you.
1978, 42 years old.
Thank you.
Why the fuck do we want him taking on Jamal Charlo, man?
No need. No Canelo either. Like, you can stay away from all of that. I was throwing hypotheticals. Like, if you're going to go for a big fight.
Go ahead.
Ramirez and Taylor the same age as the Charlo guys.
Yeah, but they're in the same way.
We're asking them to fight younger guys, right?
But we're not asking a Manny Pacquiao to go to a weight division where even if he's not losing weight, even if he's not weak at this point in his life, movement is difficult. Maybe he can't take the punch after that knockout versus Marquez. There's so many questions on a Manny moving to 154, even at a catch weight at 154. And see, that's another thing, Dave. I don't want to see him versus Ramirez at a catchweight. I don't want to see him versus Charlos on a catchweight. And if he goes up to 154, it's gonna be a catchweight. It
is. I think either way he goes, south or north, I think there's gonna be a catchweight with him. Let's not forget he used to be the catchweight king. I got bad respect for him, but he was the catchweight king for a long time.
I thought that was Mayweather. I thought Mayweather was the catchweight king.
Well, he was too, but Manny was. Look, Freddie was a great matchmaker. And I told him that every time I saw him. I'm like, you're like one of the greatest matchmakers in boxing. When I went down and interviewed him, when Miguel Cotto had lost to Antonio Margarito, I was the one that brought it up to him. Said, hey, how come you guys don't think about fighting, Miguel Cotto right now? There's questions around him, and he was like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. And then when I asked him about Antonio Margarito, at that moment he goes, we're not crazy. Then when I interviewed him when they made the fight, he said, this is why we're doing it. He's damaged goods, so there's an angle. Everybody in boxing is got to have an angle. And I just don't see him going for those, especially lighter guys that like Ramirez and Taylor, they're going to throw more punches. You know what I'm saying? Where he's thinking of the heavier guys like Thurman. He knew Thurman was going to come in as a one-arm fighter. Same thing with Broner. He knew they were going to be one-arm guys. They weren't going to throw volumes. These other guys, they're going to throw volumes of shots at him.
But these other guys, though, Dave, and I agree with everything you just said, but what these other guys are bringing to the table is something that Manny has never had. Despite being 8-weight world champion, despite being 12 times world champion, He's never been undisputed. And I
Yeah,
think
but you know what, though, Amilcar? Let me ask you this: you really think he cares about that? Because if he did, he would have took the fight with Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford, because he could have done that in the division he's at. Do you really think he cares about that? I don't.
So he only cares about the money, is what we're saying? He wants to
Yeah.
take money fight?
That's it. I mean, come on.
And that would not be Mikey Garcia,
Listen,
though.
why would he be talking about Ryan Garcia? Why would he be talking about Conor McGregor? I mean, those are big money fights.
I get those. I agree with that, but I don't think. Sorry, Milk, you were saying something. My bad.
Sorry, so I was just saying, Kenny, that I don't think I ever heard Manny say Ryan Garcia. I heard Ryan Garcia.
Yeah, we heard Ryan say it, but not Manny.
That's true. Yeah, but I mean, you know, they were, you know, hoping and stuff they can make that. I mean, that would have made perfect sense. You know, the kid does generate enough to kind of like get that intrigue. But again, I mean, if you even wipe out the whole Ryan Garcia, I mean, Conor McGregor, that's what he was looking at.
Yeah. But look, let's not, I mean, a fighter like Manny Pacquiao, you know, on his way out, I'm not going to get mad because the man is looking for his best financial interest.
Exactly. I mean, yeah.
After giving us so much, I'm not going to get mad because the man is like, who can I fight to where I can still perform, but I can take that bag with me, right? Now, I'll tell you this. If Manny Pacquiao was to all of a sudden go against the Ramirez or the Taylors and fight them, yes, these two are volume punches, Dave.
Yep.
But remember, everybody, for some awkward reason, that's been of somewhat of a level, with the exception of Marquez and Terrible Morales, for some reason they freeze, man, when they're in front of Pacquiao. They freeze until Pacquiao starts slowing down.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm not going to say that his presence brings this aura, but it's something in there that he does, along with his attack, his weird angle, throwing punches from weird angles.
Hand speed, no works.
You know, see,
that can change the direction of a fighter's plan.
Ranger, when I'm watching Manny, and it's been like this since I first saw him when he came over and fought that South African dude in San Francisco. David, you probably remember the dude's name.
Mm-hmm.
Out there. So that was the first fight I saw of Manny when I was a kid. And it's literally like watching a guy with electricity running through his veins while he fights. And I can only imagine what it's like fighting a guy like that. So quick, twitchy, so fast, constantly making you guess. And you know that when he touches you, it's like, you know, getting at that negative and positive cable, you know, touching each other when you jump starting your car. You know what I mean? He is that good. Now, before we continue to the next topic I have here for us, I just want to let everybody know you can call in live, 718-618-4284. Once again, it's 718-618-4284. Or if you are outside the United States, you can, of course, hit me up on Skype and get plugged right in here. It's El Maestro Amílcar at gmail.com. Now, look. Yo, go ahead. You had a last thought there, Drew?
Yeah, I want to put one more thought into this. I don't think the undisputed 140 fight is going to be that easy to make. And the reason why, the one that's going to kill that fight is going to be Bob Elm, because Bob Elm has been having a history of undervaluing fights. And because number one,
that's true.
He's not putting this Ramirez Taylor fight on pay-per-view, which it should be on because it's undisputed and these two are in their prime, arguably the two best fighters in the division, and that's not on pay-per-view. That's something that I don't understand. And he's been unpromoting Terrence Crawford too, and everything. So who expects Bob Elm to go out and give somebody like Jose Morales or Josh Taylor maybe $20 million to fight Manny Pacquiao? Because that's a big demand of money for Manny Pacquiao too, because of his name and everything.
It's not a big demand that's not been earned. It's not a big demand that's not worth. I mean, look, we also want to hate. People want to hate on Mayweather, but it's just to put him as an example. If Mayweather comes back tomorrow and he says, "I want no less than 35," he gets no less than 35, and why? Because of what he's done, because of what they've done for the sport, in the way they've done it, whether you like it or not. Look, I get it. This is a big money fight. And I do agree with you, Drew. Bob Arum is notorious. Anytime a fighter kills his cash cow, anytime a fighter's about to leave his stables, he goes on the mission of devaluing these fighters, destroying his public image. And that is a fact, right? But at the same time, no matter how much you want to devalue a fighter, no matter how much I hate, let's just, for example, Amílcar. If I know that Amílcar can come and fight my fighter and Dave, and I can make a ton of money out of that fight, I'm gonna put my hate under the hood and leave it there till after the fight, because that money is just too good, my man, too good. So I think you never know. Bob, 85 years of age, but the richer you are, the greedier you are, he might still want to squeeze some lime juice out of Manny Pacquiao. You never know.
Well, he wants to squeeze. He wants to squeeze some lime juice out of that guy.
Yeah.
So, it was announced this week, and I know everyone here thinks that the guy I'm about to talk about is immensely talented. But if you think the way I think, and I'm not saying you should, you think that this guy has not really been testing himself against the very best. And while we just talked about Manny potentially facing off for the undisputed championship at 140, our man, Tank Davis, is going to be taking on Mario Barrios next at 140.
Good fight.
Kenny,
140 though. Wow.
Yeah. Kenny, I'm going to start with you. First thoughts about hearing about this.
Why is he moving up to 140? It sounds like he's running away from the good competition at 135 and 130, which is where he should be. He's a little guy. He's not a big guy. He's a small frame, smaller dude, and he has the power at 135 and even better power at 130. What does he think he's gonna do at 140? I think it's a bad idea all around. We'll see. Maybe he plans on cherry picking everybody at 140 or whatever and not fighting for titles. I don't know what he's thinking. This blows my mind. I don't know.
I don't know. You'll probably agree with me on this one, but if I had to answer Kenny's question right there, I'll say Mayweather's got his magic hand behind this move. I think by pulling Tank out of that pod, Tank, it doesn't have to worry about no Lomachenko, no Devin Haney, no Ryan Garcia, no Nakatani, no Fortuna. He ain't got to worry about none of those peoples, right?
They hold any of those guys.
Any of those guys. So I think this got Mayweather Jr. written all over it, and then
ducking,
and then his name states it all. Tank. You
Tank.
Tank.
You know what happened, right? Floyd asked him, he's like, how old are you again? He's like, I'm 27. He's like, shit, you can't retire yet like the way I did it. We're going to move you up. Let's move you up.
Yeah. Hey, look, I like the kid. I don't want nobody to misunderstand. I'm not hating on the kid, but I do think that the kid's career, the kid's career could be managed much better. There's plenty of talent there. Plenty of talent there to explode if you manage the career. And when I say manage the career, I don't mean just financially, because I do think that aspect is well managed, the financial aspect of it. I mean the legacy aspect of his career. Are you in the sport for money? Because if you are, okay, no problem. But are you in the sport also for legacy? And if you are, is the path you're taking a well path for your legacy? I will defer on that one.
You know what's crazy is that Tank has a better resume than Devin Haney. First off, okay, and he does. And but here's the thing: like, we're asking Manny, which again, I would love to see him go for undisputed 140. I think that'd be fucking awesome, right? That'd be great for him to do that. But it goes back, man. I was saying, like, it's almost like these kids are chasing the money where Manny deserves that. Like, Manny deserves to chase
Well put.
whoever he wants at this moment of his career. He's 42. He's accomplished everything. He did everything. He fought the Morales, the Barreras, Marquez, the Mayweather, De La Hoya, Cotto, Margarito, like you name it. The guy, I mean, Thurman, Keith Thurman.
And Morales,
Yeah. I mean, he's done it. You know what I'm saying? And he not only did he fight them once, he's fought them twice, 3, 4 times, you know, where these guys, you know, all due respect to like even like Teofimo Lopez and stuff, he's like, I don't want to fight Lomachenko again. You know, I want to move on, you know. We don't see these guys. They're not intrigued of wanting to do, you know, the rematches or the trilogies. They're looking for the bigger cake.
And we definitely don't get them trilogies no more.
What's wrong with this guy right here?
Nothing.
I mean, why isn't he facing him?
Absolutely nothing wrong with that dude. That's my dude right there.
Yeah, bro. That's who I want to take to
You
face.
know what? I'll tell you why nobody wants to face him.
Here comes Evo.
Because he's not your normal Mexican fighter. This dude can actually box.
Thank you.
And it can really move around. And he can really knock you out still.
And he has improved too, Evo. He has improved tremendously.
This guy has it all. And the problem is, nobody's going to want to fight this dude at his division. They say Shakur Stevenson might, but you know Shakur don't want to fight this dude. This dude's going to show Shakur Stevenson off easily.
The improvements under Reynoso took a little while, but they all came together for that Burchelt fight. And look, I'm going to quote my man D-Style. And by the way, we're live streaming right now on D-Style Boxing and on MaestroA. If you're tuning in on D-Style Boxing, click the link under the video and subscribe to my page, please. Now, but to quote D-Style Boxing, Oscar Valdez used to like to watch his work. Against Burchelt, what did he do? He was on his toes. He'd land a 1-2. He'd throw in a hook every now and again and clip Burchelt. He didn't stand there and try to, catch the receipt. Nah, he was moving around.
He definitely didn't do the
right? And that is a kind of a style that's going to be dangerous for a lot of people at 130 pounds. It really is. I want to let him, man, D, real quick from Speaking Mind Sports Talk. D, what's good, fam?
I was going to say, where's he at? What's up, D?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Hey, check it out. Maestro, let me get off my phone and jump in on my computer. So this green screen can actually mean something.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
That's the king of the green screens right there.
I was gonna say when Devo said that, what's his name, Valdez beats Shakur Stevenson easy. I'm like, where's D at? Because D's gonna say, hell no. What are you talking about?
I will rebut anything he comes at me with. I will come down back because I really truly believe Oscar Valdez will beat Shakur Stevenson.
Why would that fight even be set up at this moment, though? I don't see that happening. Shakur Stevenson hasn't fought nobody.
I agree, Kenny.
Shakur Stevenson hasn't fought anybody.
Kenny, I agree 100%. But here's the deal, and unfortunately, it's because they're both signed to Top Rank, and Top Rank, for whatever reason, is pumping this kid up like he's the, greatest thing since Sugar Ray Leonard. I was not impressed by his last fight, to be honest, and he hasn't really ever done anything at 130 pounds. I think I agree with you, Kenny. He has a lot to prove before he gets a crack at a guy like Burchelt, in my eyes. But unfortunately, boxing doesn't necessarily work like that. And I'm going to bring on D because I know D has some opinions about Shakur Stevenson's status in the sport. First, though, I'd like you to give your thoughts on Barrios' potential matchup with Tank. I know you're talking that this afternoon on your podcast, YouTube channel, and is that the best fight for him? What's going on? Why is he jumping up to 140, D?
All right, so yeah, let me dig into this real quick because I'm trashing this fight, right? And people like, oh, no, this is a competitive fight, this, that, and the third. I like Mario Barrios. I'm not saying it's not a competitive fight, but let's look at the situation. First, I don't believe Floyd will put Tank into that fight. I think it's a clout chase. I'm going to say that right off the back. Reason why I'm saying that is because Floyd ain't never put Tank in a dangerous fight in his freaking life. I don't understand why he'll pull the trigger now. I don't, right? So I don't think the fight's happening. I do believe Mario is a dangerous fight for Tank. I think it's Floyd's done this before. He's mentioned these names where people are like, oh yeah, that'll be an interesting fight, and then he gives us this with Tank. I think that's what's going on here. For some reason, if Floyd does put Tank in that fight, anybody that's a fan of Barrios be leery, right? Because Floyd knows this game better than I do, and probably most of us. The dude had a sharp mind when it comes to what goes on in that ring. If he puts him in that fight, I say Tank stops him. That's right, he stops him, right? Because Floyd's not going to mess up his money bag. Why would Floyd do that? That's why people got the question, well, why would Floyd do that? Why would he send him up to 140? Listen, man, when Josh Taylor and Ramirez get into that, fight that they're supposed to get into, after they move on, those belts will be vacated. What happens? Tanks get elevated to a full champion without ever having to fight a champion at 140. Best believe he will be elevated. This is another Floyd Mayweather game. We got to pay attention to Floyd. This dude's it's a game, bro. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
that's why I'm trashing this fight. One more thing, Emil. One more thing. That's why I'm trashing this fight. And the biggest reason I'm trashing this fight, because I believe the boxing world would rather see Vasyl Lomachenko versus Tank, Oscar Valdez versus Tank, Shakur Stevenson versus Tank, Ryan Garcia versus Tank, Devin Haney versus Tank. I think the whole boxing world would rather see those fights. This is another Floyd Mayweather fallacy.
Can I say something real quick, Emil Code, about that?
Of course. Go ahead, Drew.
I fully agree with you on that, with the Floyd Mayweather move and everything. But I think before they even try to elevate him to a full champion, there's somebody that fights on PBC that fights at 140 that I think they're going to have to consider fighting him, because he's arguably probably the second or third best fighter in that division is Regis Progress. I think that's a fight they have to pursue if they're going to try to elevate him to a full champion, because I think he has more of a right than Tank to become full champion in that division.
He does. I agree with that, but it's 3 other belts. Floyd gonna work that magic, fam. It's 3 other belts. That's all I'm gonna say about it. It's 3 other belts.
So D, let me ask you a question. Because this idea popped in my head. Do you think that if for whatever miracle Manny was to take a step down to 140, do you think maybe that's something Floyd's aiming? Yo, if you can get these belts.
I can't hear him.
Is that me?
No, I don't know. No, I thought it was me.
Raw boxing, you cut out, fam.
Yeah, Raw boxing, you cut out. You're on mute.
Floyd just cock blocked you. Look at him.
He's still talking though. It's crazy. But gentlemen,
I'm back.
I'm gonna take this moment to say goodbye. I gotta go. I'll see you guys on the next one. You guys all take care. Mad love. One love. Peace and blessings, brother.
Everybody follow Kenny on Twitter. Kenny's about to get his YouTube game started as well. So just subscribe to him on or follow him, I should say, on Twitter. All right,
thank you guys. Thank you, Mill. You guys have a good one, man. Take care. Mad love.
Hey, Raw, if you can hear me, I think he went out. He'll probably come back in.
Come back in.
I think I know where he was going with that. It makes sense, but it could be that, right? Now, because here's why. If Tank Davis was to lose to Manny Pacquiao, it doesn't kill his stock, right? This is why Floyd ain't really put him in nothing dangerous, right? Because it'll kill his stock. Losing to Manny, that ain't going to kill his stock. And as a matter of fact, it'll probably increase his stock because he fought Manny. It means he's worth more for pay-per-view, right? You know Floyd will flaunt that everywhere. So it's a possibility, the Manny situation, if Manny would entertain that. I don't even think Manny respects Floyd enough, or like, why would he work with Floyd? Manny like, hey, F you were supposed to give me a fight after y'all bullshit PBC deal. How about that? F you, I'm not throwing you a bone. So
I don't know, man. I just think you guys are giving too much credit to Floyd. To think that far ahead, I just don't see that.
Like,
you know,
Floyd is, to me, is the greatest matchmaker / boxer. So the guy that was a matchmaker and the boxer at the same time of all time. Like,
I've always said Floyd is the greatest Houdini of boxing. You know, he could
it's 130. He never fought Acelino Freitas or Jose or Yoel Casamayor. He didn't. And then he went up to 135. Yeah, he won a belt. And he went up to 140. Yeah, he won a belt. But notice when he went up to 140, he went after Gotti. He didn't go after Zoo.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's always been a great Houdini of the sport. And you know what? All credit to his team, though. I mean, I always like, look, I mean, his team is actually really good. Like, you know, Al Heyman, Ellerby, everybody that surrounds him, they strategically know how to move or do what he wants and stuff. I just can't sit here and go like, yeah, he's thinking that far ahead that Manny might come down. I just don't think that. I just think that exactly what he's doing with Tank is avoid everything you can, try to get all the belts in so many different divisions, so you can claim that he's a 6-time division champion. Blah 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 blah. And like I said on D-Style's show on the Leaving the Ring roundtable, I was like, we live in a society now where we give trophies to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place and give them praise through this. It's ridiculous.
I really think this move can actually backfire on Tank. There's a strong chance this could backfire on Tank, and the main reason. He might not have that power at 140. You never know.
Yep.
And especially he's a undersized fighter at 140. That's another disadvantage. Yeah. And even though there's not really that many top names at 140 right now, he will eventually have to fight one of those names to even make an impact on that division, because people are going to look at how is he a champion if he's not fighting one of these top names in this division and everything. Like, I think the best move for Tank is to stay at 135, because, tell you the truth, him and Ryan is a 50-50 fight as of right now. I think he gets scored by Devin Haney. I think he gets scored by Lomachenko. I think Teofimo can probably stop Tank. But the only one I think he might have a shot at beating is Ryan Garcia.
I don't know my man's name there, but
Drew.
Drew? Okay, Drew, I'm with you, fam. This could be a cherry pick gone wrong, which that's why I don't think, like I said, y'all know when I started to rant off, I don't think we get the fight. Because if I see it as a fight that could be a cherry pick gone wrong, to me, that says that's danger. Floyd ain't gonna put that boy in no danger, so I don't think we get it. He gonna have a hand injury or contract COVID or something. There's gonna be some reason for them to pull back out of that, bro. It's right now, to me, it's just a clout chase.
What you see
crazy, man.
What you see here on the screen is a lot of cherry picks going right. So, Santa Cruz, Gamboa, Ricardo Nunez, Hugo Ruiz. I was actually at the fight that he won here in New York at the Barclays, which was obviously the first fight there at the very, very bottom of the list. I got his last date here, which was Jose Pedraza. But has anyone really been impressed by Tank Davis's wins since that Pedraza victory?
No.
I wasn't impressed with that win.
Yeah, I mean, I was. I'm not going to lie. I was there live. Maybe that was part of it. But later on, Pedraza would say that he was weight trained and had issues going on and stuff like that. But look at that list. We're talking about a guy who struggled against Yuriokis Gamboa, who was 39 at the time, fighting on a bad Achilles, and still took him 12 rounds. Right?
He also struggled with Fonseca, which Ryan Garcia knocked him out in 1 round.
Yeah. And what I will say about Barrios, I'm going to go to his record actually over here, right? You know, the names don't really stick out to you that much, but he has also fought at welterweight, I believe. So he has taken the punch of much bigger men than Tank Davis.
Hey, Emil, I'm gonna tell you something. A name that doesn't stick out is Batir Akhtamov. People don't know about him, but he's a hell of a fighter, fam.
Fighter, yeah, he is.
That's a solid win for Barrios.
Absolutely.
So a lot of people don't know about Akhmedov, but that's a solid fighter, fam. Great win for him, in my opinion, by my assessment. That's a great win.
Yeah, no, it is. It is a good win for him. Yeah, I mean, this is a tough fight for him, you know. But I think everybody were on the same page where we're saying like, why make this jump? There's so much to accomplish in these divisions where you're at. Like, there's big money fights. You know, if you're chasing the dollar's right there. Like, why would you leave? If you're gonna rob a bank and you're only gonna take the teller's fucking cash register and the safe is open, why would you leave that? It makes no sense.
You know why, Dave? Look, this is my idea on it. I really honestly believe, outside of Ryan Garcia, that all of those other fights might be more difficult for Tank. Not to disrespect Barrios, but Lomachenko, Oscar Valdez, Devin Haney, Shakur, I think they may be more difficult for Tank. And Floyd say, well, we got to do something. And he may be thinking that's the best route he could take. But I'm telling you guys.
And it's crazy, though. If you think about that, that's kind of crazy. So, you know what? These guys are going to be difficult for you. So let's jump weight. Because that might be easier. You know what I mean? That's weird. So then what happens after when you get a real challenge at 140? Do you jump up again or do you jump back down when everybody's gone?
He going to pull a Canelo on us. And I love Canelo. Look, I love Canelo, so I'm not taking a shot at Canelo. But the 175 deal was a one-off thing, right? So you get that at 175. Look, I vacated or whatever, but you could say, no, I did that. All right, let me go back down here and mess around at 135 and 130. Of course, Canelo didn't mess around, but Tank's just going to go back down there and mess around, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get to another topic that I wanted to discuss today, I want to remind everyone that we are live, okay? And you can call in 718-618-4284. Once again, that's 718-618-4284. You can also Skype in at El Maestro Amílcar at gmail.com. It's there on your screen if you are outside the United States and don't want to pay that big ass cell phone bill. Just call in on Skype. It's free, right? So big thing happened over the weekend, gentlemen. Big heavyweight fight out of New Zealand. You know, I don't know if you guys were entertained. I got up super early for it. I know David was there on Twitter with me, watching it live, round by round, scoring it. We saw a lot of jab, right hand, clinch. We saw a lot of jab, right hand, clinch. I'm talking about Junior Fa here. And we saw Joseph Parker not really able to deal with it. So should it be any surprise that it was announced yesterday that Joseph Parker fired his longtime coach, Kevin Barry? Dave, any thoughts?
Not really. I mean, I got to know more about the story. I mean, it's new, you know. I don't like to...
Let me put it to you this way. Have you seen, I'll phrase the question better. We'll look at his last few fights here. They're up on the screen, Joseph Parker. Have you seen much improvement over these last few fights?
I haven't, but at this point of his career, can we say we're going to see those improvements? I'm not sure. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's a trainer issue or is it a Parker issue? You know, I mean, only he knows. And if he's switching trainers to find out, then we'll find out in this next fight. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say.
Kevin Barry is the trainer that he turned pro with. He's the only pro trainer he's had. He did take him to the WBO title, and obviously he famously beat Ruiz in that big fight out in New Zealand. I personally thought that
it was controversial. You know what I mean? It was controversial.
Absolutely.
Right.
I personally thought that he was on the verge of beating Dillian White there at the end. Dillian White was like, stumbling around on hurt towards the end of the fight, but he lost it. And
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Every fighter that we've ever seen, only a handful have been able to get a new trainer and show improvement with them. I've always felt that it's up to the fighter it's like ad-lib to their style. Okay, if they feel they're in trouble or they feel they're losing the fight, they're gonna dig deep and they're gonna bring it out of them. That's what makes a great fighter. I've never gotten that vibe off of Joseph Parker. What I got from Joseph Parker is who he is. Okay, the way he fought against Fa, there was adjustments that he should have been able to see because he's been fighting for how long? Couldn't make those adjustments. So maybe it is a good thing, but it depends on who he decides to get on his corner that can help him make those improvements. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times, guys think I'll get this guy. Hey, let me get Reynoso, but it takes time. The chemistry has to click. So sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. We never know.
D. Jefferson?
Dave stole all my words. No.
I'm sorry, man.
Gathering is something that I've been thinking about too, which is how much of this is Joseph Parker's mentality in the ring, and his demeanor. He's known as this nice guy. You know what I mean? His ability to make adjustments on the court. Because guess what? You can have Phil Jackson coaching you. If you can't make adjustments in a split second, it doesn't really matter. So on the basketball court, boxing's no different. How much of this is Joseph Parker and how much of this is Kevin Berry and how much of this is the old tale of, and we've talked about this in the past, Dave, on our show, Leaving in the Ring. When things are going right, it's usually given, the athlete gets credit for it. But when things go wrong, it's usually the coach that gets thrown under the bus. So, Drew Evo, what are your thoughts? I still see you there with us.
Well, there's one fight you failed to mention, which I thought he won that fight, was Anthony Joshua. That was a little bit of a close fight that I thought he won. But, some fighters react good to trainer switch. Some fighters, they just continue to do the same stuff. Like, to be honest, it can go well for him to switch trainers because, tell you the truth, a fight with Dillian White, I thought he should have won. He let it get away from him. And this fight right here was a hugging fest to me.
It was.
And everything. I thought they were really trying to hug it out the whole fight instead of fighting it. But, hey, if you want to be peaceful, let's be peaceful. But I really thought he could have made adjustment on the clinches and everything. Could have done a lot more moving around to be able to prevent those clinches and to work his jab a lot more to set up bigger combinations when he fought Junior Fa. But maybe it was trainer strategy on how the fight was, and he probably didn't agree with it. And he probably thought, hey, this is as far as I can go with this guy. Maybe a guy that's going to take me to undisputed title might be another trainer. And sometimes it might be the best move. Like, Amir Khan thought that Freddie Roach wasn't the best trainer for him because he was a offensive minded and he kept getting knocked out. So he switched to a defensive minded trainer with Roger Hunter. The same result happened, but I seen the idea of the move and everything, kind of like the idea at first, but that time Amir Khan just couldn't switch away from his habit.
Yeah, and I know, Dave, you're very familiar with Amir Khan going to your neck of the woods in Northern California and taking on Virgil Hunter as a trainer. And Virgil is actually one of these guys who kind of lived off of Ward.
Right.
And like scooping up different boxers, and I guess these guys thought he was going to change them, right?
Well, Virgil, listen, Virgil is a great talker, like visually, which a lot of us do. We're, quarterback, Sunday night, couch potatoes, whatever. Virgil's great. Like, if you want to talk about footwork and all that, like Virgil is a guy you could sit there and you could pick his mind and we could talk about old fights, but I don't even know if a lot of folks know this, but Virgil is actually a martial art trainer than he is a boxing trainer, and the success that he had with Ward was off of the way he would, like, the philosophies that he had. Ward understood it and was able to adapt to it and utilize it. There's not a lot of fighters that can actually listen to what you're telling them and then go, I got what you're saying. I got the play and I'm going to execute it. If you watch Virgil Hunter, who I always loved, I mean, Virgil's a great guy. If you watch Virgil, though, there's too much information, and sometimes a fighter just needs to be directed, and Virgil can't just get to the point, unfortunately. So yeah, I mean, look, Joseph Parker, whatever he's gonna do, like somebody in the chat room was like about Tyson Fury. It depends on the fight, and I've always said this: you can give them the directions, you can tell them what to do, because that's what a trainer's supposed to do. He's the field coach, okay? The fighter's the inside coach. The field coach is gonna tell you what passes and what pockets you can run through, all this other stuff. But you as the guy that's in the play got to execute it. So like Joel Diaz had a great plan for his fighter against Canelo, but he couldn't execute it. So it really just does fall back to the fighter. Amir Khan was a guy that was stuck on his style. There was nothing you were going to do about it. Same thing with Joseph Parker. It's hard to say, could he change? Could he adapt? And I said this earlier, there's not a lot of fighters that can do that, can be a student to the game.
Well, I think a lot of what's going on with Joseph Parker is, well, there's two things that I see. The first I see is clearly an issue of mentality. And like you said, Drew, he dropped the ball against Dillian White. He should have won that fight. And he waited until the end to close the show, and he came close to closing it, but he came up too short. I think a lot of his issue as well is his size. He's not the biggest heavyweight in this day and age. I believe he's about 6'4". He's about 240. That's smaller than Joshua. It was smaller than Farr. It's definitely smaller than the Tyson Fury. And there were others as well. So
you're supporting the bridge weight?
No.
Is that what you're saying? You're supporting the bridge weight? Is that what you want?
What I'm saying is, given his mentality, and really going for it on the inside, right? It's always going to be difficult for a guy like that to win against a bigger guy that's willing to engage in the punch clinch tactic. So, for many, many years, executed or properly executed, like by Vladimir Klitschko. That is the tactic used by a big man who's very strong and very heavy to overwhelm and dominate a smaller heavyweight. Whether that's Fast Eddie Chambers, who I know Drew Evo's probably very familiar with, or whether it's Joseph Parker.
Honestly, what's crazy, like if you look which I always find kind of weird why trainers don't go into like fight tapes. And I always go back to like Buddy McGirt. Like Buddy McGirt just blew my mind. He's like, I don't watch any fight tapes. I don't watch any fights about the opponents we're gonna face. We go off of what's happening at the moment. But like if you look at the big guys, okay, like Vladimir Klitschko, to even like George Foreman, any of the big boys, okay, what they would do is if they missed a punch, they would grab you. It was up to you to take that step back, like to already anticipate, I'm going to probably throw a punch, or he's going to throw a punch, but he's going to miss. If he misses me, he's gonna want to grab me and then weigh down my legs, you know, flatten the tires on my feet. I was going like Parker. I mean, he's been doing this from round 1 to 2, 3, and 4. Are you gonna adjust to this? So, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if the trainers, I don't know if Barry was telling them to do this. Like, hey, take a step back. If you're gonna throw a punch, take a step back. Let him fall into a punch you're gonna throw. That's how you can catch him. I don't know if Barry was telling that, but if Joseph is a student of the game, and this is what I mean, this is why I kind of find it hard to believe that if he goes to another trainer, he's gonna make these adjustments. Like, you were never taught this, you know, in the beginning. Sometimes I just think you can't teach an old dog old tricks and stuff, you know what I mean? And if you're not watching fight tapes, that's what frustrates me with a lot of fighters nowadays, where I look at fighters and go like, they don't watch any fight tape, and how you know that is their footwork or even how they react to certain things that an old school fighter can see, adapt to, and capitalize on.
Yeah, I gotta agree. You know, trainers take the blame, man. You know, after Andy Ruiz lost to Anthony Joshua in the rematch out there in Saudi Arabia, what had happened to Manny Robles?
Yeah, but he and Manny was having issues prior to that, though. They were already butting heads, and that was kind of
way before too. Yeah, way
that was
before.
kind of like the nail in the coffin for their situation. They already had issues, so I do get what you're saying, but just in that particular situation, they were already clashing heads, fam. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. So here's what I wanted to share as well with you guys, and I want to close out on this topic. You guys excited by this fight at all? I hope
beefy.
We've got Liam Williams. Big news in the sport of boxing. Trumped everything to come out in boxing news today. We got Liam Williams out there from Wales. I wish Hamed was here joining us. And Boo Boo Andrade. And what I want to know from you guys is what's going on with Boo Boo, and where do you see his career going in the next few years? Drew, I'm going to start with you.
It's a shame because it's hard to get him a fight. It's hard to get him a really credible fight because he's avoided at times. But, you know, I think that the Canelo fight's been avoided because I think this is Andre is a style that Canelo has a hard time with. But another fight that could be made was him and Charlo, but I doubt that gets made because it's PBC and everything, and he's with Matchroom. So Eddie Hearn hasn't really done his best work trying to get Demetrius Andre those big fights. And he should be able to, because Eddie Hearn's able to get these other big names fighters hit the big fights. Why can't you get Demetrius Andre a big fight? This fight, I'm not interested in one bit. And if this continues, Demetrius is probably gonna get disinterested. He's like, I saw him on Twitter one time say, I weigh over 200 pounds. He's calling out a WWE wrestler. And everything. That just shows you one thing. He's starting to get disinterested.
Yeah, I mean, you're sitting on the shelf, you're tied into the zone. I guess you feel a little frozen out because you can't face off against the PBC fighters, and they're not willing to go over to the zone to face you. It's got to be one of the most underwhelming careers of the past few years for me, and I'll tell you why. Maybe everybody here on the panel knows this with me, but he was actually an amateur world champion before he turned pro. He was the best amateur as a junior middleweight in the world, and he turned pro. He signed to, I think it was Star Boxing. Star Boxing. I don't know why. And it just does not seem like his career ever took off. He was a 154-pound champion, didn't unify with anyone, didn't really fight anyone as a 154-pound champion, stepped up to 160. Same story repeats itself. Yet he's so willing to talk shit about Canelo and his record and how Canelo's overrated and who Canelo has fought. It's like, dude, you're pointing the finger, but 3 fingers are pointing back at you. Who have you fought?
Well, I am going to say this. He almost had a fight. Eddie Hearn did try to get him a fight with Triple G. Triple G didn't want to fight him.
Yes, this is true.
And that would have up in his career to get probably bigger fights if he would have easily bit Triple G and everything. Even though Triple G is like 38, close to 40 and everything, that's still a name that can, if he dominates Triple G, hey, I dominated Triple G. That gets me some credibility. Oh, maybe it's time for Andre just to move up. He'll probably get an easier time getting fights because Eddie Hearn promotes some of these top names at super middleweight.
He does.
Hey, let me jump in on this a little, if you don't mind, bro.
No, I was gonna go to you, D. I was gonna go to you next, brother.
Yeah. I don't like pointing fingers in one direction for none of these fighters. And sometimes they have to take accountability. There are a lot of fighters that avoided Demetrius Andre. He screwed himself at so many angles. He screwed himself with the Rock Nation situation in the first place, which a lot of people don't understand that. Hey, man, that's your business. You took on business with the Rock Nation. Now, I know they messed him up, but you pulled out of that Jermell Charlo fight. It was because of Rock Nation, but you pulled out of that fight. You decided not to fight Korobov. You decided not to fight the Reverend Chinko. Names on your resume earlier on, those names, it changes the whole landscape of things. See, he cost himself those fights. And then when we talk about that WBO belt, at 154 or 160, he never beat a guy. He never had his hand raised to hear and knew because they were vacant title fights, fam. And then you didn't defend them well. Like, I can't keep up the woe is me, woe is me, woe is me, Demetrius Andre. And he screwed himself in a lot of areas, right? Sometimes accountability has to be taken. Here's another thing with Demetrius Andre and his situation. We hear so many people around the YTBC and the boxing world cry about the PBC and how they don't make the fights with the guys. Like, remember the David Benavidez and the Caleb Plant and all of the fussing with all of the fans? Why they won't make them fight? Why they won't make them fight? Why they won't make them fight? Ain't Demetrius Andre, Murata, and GGG on the zone?
Yeah.
Right? So then now there's guys in their own stable that they ain't finding the fights. Right? So, I mean, point the fingers at other places. I just can't hear woe is me, woe is me, woe is me when this guy made some serious mistakes himself, right? You know, I don't think a lot of people understand he handpicked Luke Keeler. That wasn't anything he was forced into.
No, that's true.
Right? He handpicked Luke Keeler. The best names on this dude's resume, not the fights that I said that it was his fault that it didn't happen, but Jack Colkay and Vanis Manarosian. I mean, how much noise can you make with that being the best thing on your resume?
I think that might actually be his best win.
Vanis or Jack Colkay, they would have to be. They would literally have to be his best win.
I'm going to put it up on the screen here right now, but we got his record here, courtesy of BoxRec, which I know we all turn to from every now and again. His last opponents have been Luke Keeler, Masay Sulecki, that was on the zone. We got Artur Akavov, Walter, and this was a weird fight. The one with Walter Kautondokwa. I remember there was like some weird things going on in that fight, and then he like knocked him down a bunch of times and still went to unanimous decision. Alantes Fox, Jack Colkay, Willie Nelson, Dario Fabian Puchetta, Brian Rose, Vanis Martirosyan. I mean, we could go below that to Freddie Hernandez and everybody else, but I mean, I struggle to find an active world champion, let alone two-weight world champion that has a weaker resume than this. And I don't know what the next stage is for Boo Boo. What are your thoughts, Dave?
Wow. I mean, what's to add to what D said right now? You know, look, I like Boo Boo. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Boo Boo. I've always liked him. I think that his first mistake is when he signed Joe DeGuardia from Star Boxing, which I honestly thought was really, really weird when he did that. take nothing away from Joe, but I mean, Joe was a guy that was trying to start a like boxing promoters movement of getting everybody in a union. But as soon as it didn't go his way, which was the first turn down from the alphabet title people, he just backed off and he just disappeared from that. Okay. I remember I did a podcast just when I was doing measuring the fighters and stuff. And this was early when DAZN had signed Andrade, right? And I was saying why Canelo wouldn't revisit a style that is similar to like Laura and everybody else. Why do that at the moment? Like this kid is just not. It's all wrong for Canelo. But somebody in the chat room would hit it right on the hit the head on the nail on the head. Perfect when they said everybody's waiting for Canelo, and like I said, I go back to the whole trophy bullshit again. It's crazy. Like everybody's waiting for this one particular fighter, whether it's Canelo, Teofimo Lopez, so-and-so, Errol Spence. Like they're waiting for them to make the move. This is why I'm a huge fan. This is why I was a huge fan of like Timothy Bradley to even now Sean Porter. These are fighters that will fight no matter what. Now Sean Porter's saying, I need a little bit more money because he paid the dues. I remember like Shane Mosley. You could criticize Shane. You could say whatever you want about Shane. But I remember having Shane Mosley on Leaving the Ring, and I asked him one time, I said, are you the janitor of Golden Boy Boxing? And he said, what do you mean? I go, it seems like you have to fight all the legitimate threats before any of the other Golden Boy guys have to get in with. And he laughed and he said, yeah, that's pretty much true. Well, I don't see that now in this era. I don't see like, Demetrius or even like Triple G. He's still waiting for Canelo. Like, bro, there's so much you can do so we can forget about the Canelo fight. Same thing with Andrade, same thing with the Charlos, same thing with all these guys, okay? We could forget about the main man because you can actually eliminate. That's why boxing's been called the chessboard. You know what I mean? You corner the king. And how do you corner the king? You take out the pawns, you take out the head horse, you take out the queen. Then you get him in the corner, and then he forces him to finally fight you. You don't see that in boxing.
Yeah. And too, I'm just touch on this a little bit. The Ggg fans, and they're just as terrible to a certain extent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're just as terrible because you hear all of this nonsense from Ggg, right? Manny Pacquiao is the only active walking legend in boxing today, right? When he was holding that WBA strap, you heard a lot of these fans say, yeah, I know it's Manny, but if he's not going to get in there, he got to let that strap go. But you got Ggg over here fighting Steve Rose and Sarah Meta, and where's the demand for that? You mean to tell me that Ggg is a bigger star or a bigger contribution to this sport than Manny Pacquiao? You idiots who demanded Manny Pacquiao drop his belt. Well, what's with the Steve Rose and Sarah Metas?
Yo, when that balloon should have popped, D? That balloon should have popped when Triple G refused to defend his IBF title against none other than Derevyanchenko the first time. Now we know why, because we actually saw the fight and we saw Derevyanchenko whoop that ass and get robbed.
He easily won. I thought he won by at least 5 rounds over Triple G.
He dominated the dude.
Hey, can I just jump in?
You heard all the crying. You heard all the crying. Real quick, David. You heard all the crying about, the Canelo fight. I think that was a robbery. Well, where were y'all fans at about the Derevyanchenko fight?
Thank you. So he drops his title. He does a Riddick bow, just like I'm doing with this can right here that I've been drinking. Just and puts it in the trash. Okay, and fights Vanes.
I hit the ground, but okay.
On short. Yeah, do it again. All right.
How'd I hit the can?
Absolutely, Drew. You good job for calling me out. So he fights Vanes. Mind you, Vanes gets short, is coming up in weight, okay, and is taking this fight on short notice. And they only got Vanes because originally he wanted to beat up on a teenager Jaime Munguia, and they said the Vegas commission said, nah, that's not a fair.
It wasn't just the Vegas commission, though. It was his management. I had him on leaving the ring. His management was straight up with me. He's not ready. That's what I want to respond to some of the guys in the chat room saying, like, he's going to fight Jaime Munguia now. That's confirmed by Eric Gomez. I mean, why are we excited about that? What has Jaime Munguia, what has he done to show us that he's a threat at 160? He's fighting another guy that's questionable. Why isn't Triple G saying, let me fight the factor of somebody that some folks could think is a challenge for me? Jaime Munguia hasn't shown he's got power. Jaime Munguia he's not, to me, honestly, let's be honest, he's not a threat at 160 yet. He really isn't.
Three things I want to say.
Not.
I saw a thing saying that Triple G is probably considering moving to 168. That's
I saw that. Yeah.
Second thing, Jaime Munguia is not really a good matchup right now for Jaime Munguia to fight Triple G because he's gonna stand right in front of him. Triple G is gonna land punches on him. And number 3, I don't even rank Triple G in the top 5 all-time great middleweights.
What? All-time great middleweights.
I don't even rank him in the top.
But Drew, we shouldn't even be having that discussion. The only reason that discussion even gets brought up is because these sycophant fanboys.
Yeah, but people are saying, oh, with his 20 defenses, dude, I don't even think he's better than half of these middleweights, all-time great middleweights.
Dude, I said this on an episode that we did in the past. I'm going to put up the episode right now. I want people to look at it, okay? That was the topic of the episode right there.
I was here rocking out with him for a little bit. Yeah,
absolutely. Go check it out. All right, we went through it in detail. All right, we talked about Kelly Pavlik. We talked about Jermaine Taylor. We talked about Bernard Hopkins. Let alone guys like Carlos Monzon and obviously Marvin Hagler. I mean, the Triple G fanboys are beyond loco, man. They need to be put in Bellevue out here in New York the way they talk about this guy's career.
Like, I'll be honest with you right now. I thought he won both Canelo fights. But other than that, I thought Danny Jacobs beat him. I don't think he's even fought anybody besides Jacobs and Canelo. Like, Dovchenko isn't that big of a name, but Dovchenko dominated him.
So if he beats, let me ask you this, Drew. If he beats a Jaime Munguia, does that do anything for him? I mean, look, I'm not against the fight. I like the fight, but if he beats him, I mean, I think it's going to be competitive where Gennady Golovkin is at the moment in his career. But at the same time, I'm thinking, like, if he beats Jaime, what does that do for him? He beat a guy that hasn't proved anything at 160, right?
That does absolutely nothing for him because Jaime Munguia is actually still up and coming, in my opinion, even though he was a champion at 154. But I still think he's still up and coming to me. I don't see him as a marquee name yet. And for him to fight Triple G and to lose to Triple G, that doesn't really hurt Jaime Munguia because he's still up and coming. But that doesn't really do anything for Triple G. It just makes it that, hey, you fought a guy that was going to stand in front of you, that 4 punches to go toe-to-toe with you. That's all that tells you. That's going to tell you about that fight. Triple G's fighting has fought nobody. He had a mandatory against a guy that no one knew about, and you see what happened. That dude went down easily. And then they had a Rumo Andre fight. That fell apart. Like, Eddie Hearn promised he was going to have big fights coming along. Where these big fights coming from? Charlo's going to beat Triple G easily. Even though Charlo hasn't really had that big resume yet, I still think Charlo beats Triple G easily. And then moving up to 168, you're going to match him up with a Cam Smith, a Billy Joe Sanders, or Chris Eubanks Jr. Like, those guys are going to – I think all those guys beat him.
Yeah.
It's too old. I think they do.
Still like to see it, though. I'd like to see him fight a real middleweight. That's all. I mean, that's what I want.
I'd like to see him even fight the guy that we were just ragging on Andrade a little bit, but
yeah,
like him to take on a guy like like Liam Williams, for God's sakes.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I'm, which I don't get, and this is what I mean. Look, man, the whole tribal boxing fans, you know, like they stick with their nationality, and they think they gotta be like Trump for it, and they think that's the greatest thing. I mean, they're the ones that are actually putting roadblocks of us seeing great fights. Why can't we see our fighters fight the fights that should happen? That's what, dude. I mean, look, I'm a Marvelous Marvin Hagler fan, okay? When I had the chance to interview him, it wasn't even an interview. You want to talk about a fanboy interview? It was the biggest fanboy interview I've ever done in my life because I was interviewing Marvelous Marvin Hagler, okay?
Yeah,
you know, this guy went through the fucking mill to become one of the greatest middleweight champions of the world. Nothing was given to this man, right? And I hold a standard. When I see guys like Salvador Sanchez, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, those are very hard, you know, high standards. So I even have certain fight fans that are in my family, friends in my circle, they go like, man, dude, like this guy can't do anything to satisfy you. I go, you're absolutely right. Because when I look at the guys that I grew up with and witnessed in my life that made me love this sport so much, I want them to show them the appreciation that these guys did. These guys paved the road for you guys to make money. They made dirt before they could live comfortable. They were making dirt, and honestly, they didn't make a whole lot.
Got to go to my man Nando in the chat here because he just lays it all out perfectly. Triple G is the exact same age.
I was laughing about that.
And never fought one single middleweight from that generation.
No, I like when Nando says if Pacquiao was Triple G, he would still be trying and taking Jeff Horn.
You know what's crazy? I think Telly Pavlik would beat Triple G.
That's not crazy at all.
No.
But I tell people this. I grew up when I grew up watching boxing. I grew up I was born in the 80s.
Same.
Grew up in the 90s.
Same.
I used to be across the street over my neighbor's house, always watching boxing on HBO. And I used to watch the De La Hoyas, the Mayweathers, the Shane Mosleys, the Trinidads. But out of all of them, my favorite fighter of all time is Bernard Hopkins. Even probably because he's from, not only because he's from Philly, because I always loved the style Bernard Hopkins always fought. It was always like a chess match.
Yeah.
And how to beat somebody.
I mean, I was a huge Tito fan, and the way he broke down Tito was like artistic.
And that's who Ward reminds me of. Andre Ward reminds me of a lot of Bernard Hopkins. Because he does the same things mostly like Bernard Hopkins does. He makes you look real bad.
He also fights ugly too.
Yeah.
Andre Ward does a lot of like little dirty tricks on the inside, man. He uses that shoulder, uses that elbow.
He knows how to fight. He knows how to hold and hit. Bernard did.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're spot on with that, Drew.
But I had to pay homage to my favorite, the greatest lightweight.
There he is, right there. Pernell,
Go ahead, Drew.
Pernell was phenomenal.
That's my favorite lightweight of all time.
Yeah, Pernell was the shit.
Yeah.
You'll never see. I don't care. Dude, it irks me so bad when I hear so many commentators go, "He reminds me of Pernell Whitaker." Nobody reminds you of Pernell Whitaker. Okay, shut the fuck up.
Not even close.
Not even, dude. You know, Pernell was able to go all the way. His ass used to be about 2 inches away from the canvas and make you miss shot. And here's the thing. He would hardly pivot away from your combinations. He actually would stay in front of you, let you do what you want, spin around you, and then he would tap you in the ass, like to let you know, I ain't there no more, dog.
I think he's the greatest defensive fighter of all time.
Yeah, he was great.
One of them. I will tell you guys something. If you haven't seen him,
up there too.
If you haven't, Pep Nicoleno Loche. But look, if you haven't seen this guy, and Dave, I want you to look at him, and then the next time I talk to you, you be like, yeah, you might have a point. Because I never say nobody's like my guy either. Pernell's my favorite boxer of all time. I'm from VA. Andy Cruz. It's this Cuban amateur, which we probably won't get to see him. Y'all check him out. Andy Cruz, bro. I mean, the closest, like, bro, I was like, holy hell. Pernell-esque.
Really?
Y'all check, yes, and you'll know that. Listen, that's my favorite fighter, so I'm not giving anybody those accolades. I'm not saying that he is like, but I'm saying that Purnell-esque. When you see him, you're gonna get it immediately. Andy Cruz, go check him out, bro.
You know why? Like, look, you know why I say this? It's hard to say that anybody will be like certain fighter. Like you won't see Barreras, you won't see the Morales, the Salvador Sanchez, even like Tony, James Toney, Purnell. I'll tell you the thing about Purnell. Not only was he a defense whiz, but remember this: when the fight with De La Hoya was actually slipping through his fingers, what did he do? He took it to another level. He was like, "I'm losing this fight. I'm gonna actually make sure that I got this fight." And he knocked out the Cuban kid, right? Mm-hmm. That's what I'm asking about other like Shakur Stevenson. I'm a big critic of him. I'm not saying he doesn't have skills, but I haven't seen that second gear. Just like a lot of fighters, like Joseph Parker. Where's the second gear, guys? We need the second gear. You know what I mean? Like, you could criticize Floyd on his second part of his career, but and that's the money career. But the Pretty Boy career, that's a different fighter. That was a different kid. You know what I mean? So I mean, you see, I always said this, like there's two parts of careers, two fighters. You know what I mean? You got the first part, the second part. Right now, like with the Gervonta Davis, all these other guys right now that we can read, like Devin Haney, we're only seeing one part, and it looks like that's all we're gonna get from these kids right now. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping everybody's wrong. But right now, what I'm seeing is we're only gonna get one part of the career, which is what? Chasing the dollar. And if you're from the streets, like I'm from the streets, you know this. You don't chase the dollar, man. If you chase the dollar, that's what you're gonna do for the rest of your life.
Yep. So look, on that note, I just want to get back to this guy here, man, because just like you said, we won't see another Purnell. We're probably not going to see another guy like this. 71 total fights, 42 years old right now, still doing it. Manny, Pac-Man, Pacquiao, and I just want to see him, if he does go out, to go out on his own, in his own way, to whatever way he wants to do it. I'm cool with. If he decides to do Mikey Garcia, hey, who am I to question that? I started the show just saying that I would like to see him go out in an undisputed fight, but if Manny decides to do something else, that's up to Manny. D. Jefferson, any last thoughts?
I was on mute. No last thoughts. I would just like to say appreciate you always giving me a link, bro. I love Dave. Appreciate talking to you. Drew, nice meeting you, brother.
Nice meeting you.
Speak to you guys again, but great show, bro. Great channel, and I'm gonna keep pushing this channel. Hope we can fill it up, fam. Fill it up.
Absolutely. And Drew, any last thoughts? Thank you, Dean.
Yeah, thanks for letting me come on here and everything. I don't really have a lot of time to come on different shows besides the show I'm on, the Shoe Shine and everything, but
of course,
I appreciate it. But my last thoughts is this: Manny Pacquiao have every right to pick his shot because of what he's accomplished in his career. But at the end of the day, the fight I want to see most is out of Terence Crawford or Spence. I doubt we'll see it, but that are the two fights I want. And Gervonta Davis should not go to 140 by any means necessary. Should not go to 140. He's not gonna go. He's not gonna last up on 140.
Yeah. Well, only time will tell. And David, I'm hoping we can do something over the weekend. If not, we'll see each other on Monday. But any last? Yep.
No, it's always a pleasure, man, to talk to D from Speak Your Mind and Drew. Drew's on Monday nights, right? You guys are doing. Now it's a YouTube channel. You guys were doing on Twitch and on Periscope. Now it's on YouTube. Yeah, which is a great show, man. You guys always have me cracking up, especially with that one caller who pisses you off because the guy calls like 20 times and tries to disguise his voice. It's hilarious, man.
he pisses me off and everything.
You got to check that out. Amílcar
The
D.
Rat Pack knows more about boxing than he does.
It's the greatest thing. I know you have a speech. What is a speech impediment, man?
Did you hear the story about Mark that he told about Malcolm Hagler after he retired from boxing, go to Italy, become like an actor or something?
No, I did it because I'm way behind, man. I always tell Amílcar, like, I try to catch everything, but what I do for a living, there's a lot of noise. So when I have a chance, like when I tweet and say, hey, this is what I'm gonna do, that's the actual thing I'm doing. I'm actually taking the time because I could hear it. Normally, there's a lot of people around me and stuff, and it's just kind of hard. But I do with Amílcar, and when D's on, I do put it on the speakers because I'm at a particular lot which has over 100 guys. I link my Bluetooth on those speakers so everybody can hear, even though they're not boxing fans.
That's what's up.
They're gonna have to hear what we're saying and stuff, and it's great. You know what I mean? But no, it's great, man. I think Amílcar's show is fantastic. I told him this a long time ago. Dude, it's great. I love the topics he comes up with and stuff. I don't agree with everything, but I think that's what makes a good boxing talk. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you so much, Drew, and obviously D Jefferson from Speak Your Mind Sports Talk. Big shout out to D Style, who lent us his channel. We were live streaming on both channels today, so if you did like it, like and subscribe. D Style a super chat or throw some money his way because these shows do cost some expense. All right, and I hope to see everyone again soon. Take care.
Peace.